If the way we're doing church gets in the way of doing things the way the Bible says to do them, we probably need to do some serious thinking about changing the way we do church. We're going to talk about one of those things today. In the parable of the lost sheep, Jesus says that if you have 100 sheep and one of them goes missing, you'll put the 99 in a safe place and then go look for that lost one until you find it, and then bring it home. Now, does that have anything to do with the church today, or was that just a cute story that Jesus entertained his listeners with? Well, we know what the right answer is, don't we? Of course, that has something to do with the church today. But just because we know that it has something to do with us in the church today, doesn't mean we actually pay attention and do it. As a matter of fact, the behavior of many churches would suggest that we've forgotten all about this parable. And it just may be that the way we've decided to do church is the biggest factor in us not following what Jesus instructs us in this parable. I'm going to tell you a true story as a way to illustrate this. It may sound a bit silly or bizarre, but we might just be surprised at how often similar stories happen every week in churches all across America. It was a church of roughly 350 people. I was one of the several elders who had the responsibility for shepherding that flock. A gentleman had joined us at the church after serving in leadership in a congregation in a different city a few miles, or a few hours rather, up the road. He came to us and said he noticed that there were a lot of people listed in the church directory that he had never met. And clearly the number of people in the directory was much larger than the number of people attending each week. He offered to help us go through a process of trying to reconcile the long list of people in the church directory that never came through the doors. And we took him up on the offer to help. Now, let me spare you a lot of the nitty-gritty details and skip forward a few months. After several meetings of going over the list and trying to figure out if these absent people were still in the area, did they consider themselves a part of the congregation anymore, etc., we had narrowed it down quite a bit and were once again going over a few names and deciding how to proceed. One of my fellow elders that spent a lot of time keeping spreadsheets on member attendance and tracking visitors pulled up his information and indicated that the couple we were talking about had attended for several weeks in a row about 10 years ago. So he suggested that we probably ought to follow up with them. I know he meant well. But really? I honestly don't remember at this point if I spoke up about what went through my head, but I remember very clearly the thoughts that came into my mind. It seemed to me that we would need to approach these people and tell them that we noticed they hadn't been there recently. And by recently, we mean 10 years ago, a decade ago. Can you imagine what their reaction would be? Really? It took you 10 years to notice that we weren't there? Or if you did notice, you waited 10 years to come check on us? Now, you may dismiss this, thinking that 10 years is ridiculous. But let me ask you, at what point does it become ridiculous? 5 years? 2 years? 1 year? 6 months? 2 months? 3 weeks? You see, now we're arguing over what our process should be, how long we should wait before we check on people. I think the point is, why are we doing church in such a way that that's even the question? These are fellow saints, a part of the same church family, a part of the fellowship of believers, joint heirs in the household of God. They're missing. And we're debating how long to let them be missing before we check on them. Really? Listen, don't laugh or scoff. The odds are very, very, very good that your church does the same thing. Most churches can tell you how many butts were in seats last Sunday morning. They can map out their week-by-week attendance. But does anyone really know who was missing? And if they do, is anything done about it? When you have a church of thousands, hundreds, or even just dozens of people, it's too easy to just look around and see that the attendance looks pretty good today. And we slowly slip into this practice of not going after the one that's missing. Because we still have 99. Why go after one when we still have 99? That's an amazing retention rate. What's the issue here? We can't keep track of everybody all the time in a church this size. It's just not practical. I don't think that is what Jesus' parable of the lost sheep means at all. And you don't either. I know you're smarter than that. Why go after the one when we still have the 99? If the way we're doing church gets in the way of doing things the way the Bible says to do them, we probably need to do some thinking, some serious thinking about maybe changing the way we do church. Something to think about. Let's leave it there for today. Thanks for listening. God bless you on your journey.